Welcome back. We are on episode 9. Now over to my gran.
Hi, everybody. We're back after our long weekend of rest. We're back to join in the fun about our farming. One thing about farming, you find the people are so much more sociable. They are so ready to help each other when help is needed. Um, And one of the highlights was the Christmas time. We had a what we used to do during the year. We would get together and perhaps have dances or some activity in our little local hall, and the money would all go towards the Christmas tree fund. Now there, when people joined with their children, no matter how much they paid in, some mothers would pay in 40, some would pay 20, couldn't afford it, would only pay 10. But what we used to do, each child got a present of the same value. None of them in their age group got anything better than the other. So they felt all as one. Anyway, this one year, we decided that the fathers would be clowns. So the fathers got dressed up as their clowns and off they went. Anyway, the children had such a lot of fun with these clowns. They really clocked them with sticks and all kinds of stuff. When the brother-in-law got back home, his own dog bit him. He still didn't recognize his masters. So that was quite humorous. It was the joke of the time. Oh, his own dog bit him. Uh, Actually, I was on the committee the one year, and when we used to get all our money together, we'd go into Maritzburg and buy the gifts, and then we'd have an evening of wrapping. And this particular time, it was at my house. The ladies would be wrapping, and the men would have a braai and be chatting. So it was another evening together. It was like a togetherness, which is, it's, as I said, it is so farming. Farmers always seem to be more, I don't know what it is, but more friendly, and they get to know each other. And if one's in trouble, the other one will help. One of the things I forgot to mention at this Christmas tree was even the old grandpa used to get himself involved. He would go outside, set the children off in the races, and they would have a grand time, really, with grandpa. And at these dances, the kids used to have they'd have the clowns, then they would have a party, and then maybe a cartoon. And then later on, the kids would go to sleep in the cars or in the restrooms, and the grown-ups would take over with the dance. And this was the highlight of the year. It was Lockwood Hall was the name of the hall that we were in. So Lockwood Hall's Christmas trees were really quite a thing. Um, what the next thing that I said, it was. The activities on the farm, the things that we used to do. My eldest son, he learned to drive at a very young age, and my husband allowed him to drive the tractors. And his greatest joy was refueling the tractor and taking it down where they were tramping the ensilage. That was his greatest joy. And the one year, I'll never forget, we were outside washing our car and we heard the African boy shouting, "Oh, the tractor's capsized." And we knew that my son had been on the tractor refueling it. Well, we were too scared to get there. But fortunately, he was told he was not to they used to tramp the silage with the tractors. And he was told he could only refuel the tractors. He was not to tramp this. But he was, children don't always listen to what you tell them, and we were too scared to get there. And anyway, it was one of the Africans had capsized the tractor. Another thing on the farm which was thrown onto me was, when the season came, you had to plough while after it had rained, because the ground was too hard. It was no good to turn up the weeds. And when this used to happen, my husband used to help, and he'd leave home early in the morning. I'd have to send his tea up, and then the lunch up, and sometimes it was even a late supper. Um, and this one particular evening, he'd been ploughing in the hot sun all day, and he sat up in bed. And I thought, what on earth are you? What's the matter with you? He says, I'm looking for the Ferguson planter. I mean, this used to play on your brain so much that you were missing something. But as I say, we had acres and acres and acres of mealies. We used to grind our own mealies, so we had our mealie meal. We didn't have to buy mealie meal or anything like that. So it was all these sort of things. And then another episode, which I only found out after we'd sold the farm, my son was given a pellet gun as he got to the age where he could shoot with a pellet gun. And I found out afterwards he used to go into the bush and he'd look for doves, he'd shoot doves and he'd roast them. And I was horrified because the farm was it was the trees and the bushes, and if you didn't know the farm, you would get lost. You could get lost. Well, obviously he knew his farm. And then another funny episode was I explained to you that we used to sell pigs to the bacon factory. And we had a boar. We had to have one boar amongst your female pigs. And he used to ride this boar, jump on its back and grab it by the ears. And this boar used to run and try and throw him off. But the boar also got clever. It saw like a roof that if he knew if he ran under that, it would throw the person off that was there, because he'd run and go under and the roof height would throw him, and that's exactly what the boar did. So those pig riding was finished. You know, another funny thing happened. I didn't mention this in the band, but my husband was in hospital, and I had to take pigs to the bacon factory. Now, in our truck, we had Usher's band advertising. And as we got to the bacon factory, the pigs started squealing. And the joke was, oh, here comes the Usher band. And it was the pig squealing was the Usher band. It was just funny little incidents like that you don't forget and you remember. Another one of them was, the labourers, when they used to reap the mealies, they had to reap so many bags, big bags of mealies, and they were given a ticket. And at the end of each week, they'd come with their tickets, and we would have to pay them. Well, eventually I got tired of all this outside my kitchen, so they built me an office, and they used to come and queue up at the window, and I used to have to count these dirty, smelly old tickets when they used to come out from in their headdresses, all over they used to keep them. And another thing as well, being, as I say, doing clerical work, your cattle, you have to have we had a dipping inspector, so you had to have a count of your cattle. Every 2 weeks, the dipping inspector would come and check and dip the cows, and if there was any missing, you had to produce a blood smear to see, and then of course they would see that there wasn't any serious complaint with the animal. So I used to have to collect the blood smears. And then in my day, the Africans used to get what they called a dompas, and the owner had to sign that once a month. That pass had to be signed. Oh my gosh. And they used to come and put them outside my kitchen window, and I used to get so horrified because my husband had to sign them. The owner had to sign them. So, all these things, they added up, but it was all the fun of being on a farm. And one of the things about the school was the station master, his children were at the school as well, and they used to have the cross country. And the cross country race, they used to walk along the railway line. And the station master used to actually stop the train. So when it was time for the kids to have the cross country, the train had to wait till the cross country had finished. It was a narrow gauge, and then the train was allowed to go. And I mean, the mothers would all meet at the school, and it was just such a fun time. So farming, although it has its ups and downs, but I think the ups were better than the downs. So I'm going to carry on with the next episode, and we'll tell you what happened with the farming. But for now, I'll say cheerio till we meet again.